Okay, so this video might be of interest for anyone that is a dual citizen, because starting mid-April, the United States government is cutting the cost to renounce your citizenship by about 80%. It's almost like they want to get rid of you. But the cost is going to go from $2,350 down to $450. And the experts are predicting that there's going to be a wave of people renouncing their citizenship. I do recall seeing some comments from people in my videos in the past saying that they would love to renounce their citizenship, but the cost was too high for them. So I think this might actually be your chance. And let me reiterate again, this doesn't apply to just Canadian and US passport holders. It could be US and UK, or US and Australia, or US and anywhere else in the world. So today, I'm going to go over an article and a video from CBC that explains all of this for you. So let's get started on the video.
There's an uptick in Canadian-American dual citizens looking to renounce their American citizenship. Turns out the US president is a factor, but not the only one. Ella Hyder is bracing for a breakup from her home country, the United States.
I'm considering renouncing my US citizenship.
She left decades ago and now calls Ottawa home.
I don't feel aligned with what's happening in American politics and also the implications for Canada and the rest of the world.
Now, I know we have quite a few dual citizens that are in the GTL community, and some of them that have been living in the United States have utilized this to move back to Canada, and they have every right to. They are Canadian citizens as well. But I'm definitely not an expert on this, but I think in the past, having two passports, one from Canada and one from the United States, has its benefits. But I'm going to guess that these days it might be more of a hassle to carry both passports. I could be wrong. I would love to hear from the dual citizens in the comments, and let me know what you think.
Each week, Hyder joins this protest group outside the American Embassy. There was a time when she was proud to be American, but that's changed.
Well, it's very divided, and the regime it's become a fascist imperialist regime.
So she's considering giving back her American passport. She's not alone. More dual citizens are contemplating the same thing. Some seek help renouncing from tax lawyers.
But we've been seeing record numbers in the last couple of years, and each year more than the last. There are obviously geopolitical issues going on that are feeding into that of current events today.
So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state. I spoke to Governor Trudeau on numerous occasions, and we'll see what happens. But it just sets up so good for them. Look, the people would pay much less tax than they're paying right now.
Now, the political stuff is one thing, but one thing I never understood about the United States is that even if you're not living in the United States, the IRS can still come after you. And I think there's only one other country in the world that does this. But it's been a system that many US citizens, or Canadian citizens, what do I call them? I guess dual citizens, have been dealing with for like the last decades or however long it's been. And I guess it's just something that's normal for people who hold both passports. But for me, if I was in this situation and seeing how radical this current US administration is and what their reach is, I would probably want to get rid of my US passport. Now, later on in this video, they give some reasons on why some citizens are not going to be giving up their US citizenship.
CBC spoke to several Canadians who've recently renounced their U.S. citizenship. For many, U.S. President Donald Trump's comments were an influencing factor. But taxation is a big issue too. There are only two countries in the world, the U.S. and Eritrea, where tax is based on citizenship rather than residency.
Today's a big day for me. I shed one of my citizenships.
The expense of filing taxes helped push Jackie Lyons to give up one of her passports.
And I chose Canada.
If we were to sell the house and I was still American, that I would have to pay capital gains.
It took Lyons months to get an appointment. And then she paid $3,000 at the U.S. Embassy to renounce.
I finally did it, and it was good. I'm glad. I have no regrets.
Now, I'm going to bet that there's some dual citizens that are watching this video right now who might be thinking about this. What really shocks me, though, is that even capital gains, if you sell a house in Canada, you still have to pay it to the United States. Now, she did mention that she has to pay $3,000 for the process. But the article did reference a link from the federalregister.gov, which does state that the final rule adjusts the schedules of fees to consular services by reducing the fees of administration process of requests for certificates of loss of nationality in the United States from $2,350 to $450. This is just my opinion, but it seems like the US government is making it easier for people to leave. I mean, since when does a government lower fees? Now for Ella, who was featured in the beginning of this report, she has a different stance on this. And to be honest, I can see her side as well.
For Ella Hyder, there's still one thing holding her back from renouncing.
If I do renounce, I will no longer be able to vote in U.S. elections. I will no longer be able to contact my congressional representatives, which I do now at least several times a week.
But regardless, she's Canadian and where she feels most at home.
I do feel alienated from what America stands for now in the world.
Robin Bresnahan, CBC News, Ottawa.
So keeping her US citizenship allows her to continue to vote and to continue to fight as well. And to be honest, it sounds like she's doing a lot more from north of the border than a lot of the US citizens. And I'm not talking about the US citizens watching this video right now. I'm talking about the US citizens who are in their bubble right now and don't really care about what's going on at the moment. But Ella isn't the only one that's deciding to keep her US citizenship. The article actually talks about another person named Joel Westheimer, who's doing the same thing as well. But before I go into Joel's story, I would like to give a shout out to Pam, who sent me this photo from Avon River in Nova Scotia. Is it Avon or Avon? I swear, ever since I started this channel, I'm learning so much more about my own country. So I want to thank you, Pam, for sending this over to me by email. Now, getting back to Joel's story, I'm going to read it out for you. I actually hate reading. I'm actually starting to notice that I read faster, way faster with my eyes than I do speak. Anyways, Joel Westheimer, a professor of education at the University of Ottawa, grew up in New York City but has lived in Canada for 23 years. His work often focuses on democratic ideals in education, and he's no fan of the orange guy or his proposal to make Canada the 51st state. But US citizenship has a different meaning for Westheimer, whose mother was born in Germany and survived the Holocaust. Ruth Westheimer later moved to the United States, where she became a renowned sex therapist and talk show host. She died in 2024. Hitler stripped Jews of citizenship, so I think about citizenship in regards to that. Joel Westheimer said, "She would probably be horrified if I renounced my citizenship, even under these conditions. I think she would want me to maintain that attachment." Hanging on to his US citizenship also means Westheimer can continue to vote in a presidential election. "I vote in every election I can," he said. Article then goes on to a quote from Ella. Ella Hyder said keeping that right to vote is one thing holding her back from renouncing her citizenship. "I will no longer be allowed to vote. I will no longer be allowed to phone my congressional representative," which I do at least several times a week. So yeah, she said that in the video. So there are dual citizens that are deciding to give up the US passport, but there are also those that are deciding to keep it, and mainly to exercise their right to vote. Now, I said earlier, if I was a dual citizen, I would be able to give up the US side. But then again, I have a little bit of bias here, and I have no attachment to the United States. But I do commend those dual passport holders that are deciding to keep their US citizenship, to make sure that their voice is heard. But at the same time as well, I totally understand any dual citizen that decides to give it up. In my opinion, there's no right or wrong answer or right or wrong way to do this. But if anyone is deciding to renounce their citizenship, at least the price has gone down a little bit. Let me read this part out. The US State Department recently announced that starting mid-April, it will reduce the fee to renounce US citizenship from $2,350 to $450. Along with the cost, renunciation requires a brief interview with the dual citizen that must attest that they understand the implications of their decision and take the oath of renunciation. But the wait for one of those interviews at the US Embassy in Ottawa or at a US consulate in Toronto and Vancouver is from 6 months to well over a year. There is a quicker path, Marino noted. "We will help and will send anywhere from about 30 to 50 Canadians a month abroad for a quicker interview to renounce," he said. "If you're interested in a renunciation vacation, we can get it done within 2 or 3 months." Marino's firm charges clients between $10,000 and $15,000, holy shit, to assist in renunciation, and he says it's wise to seek professional guidance. "Unfortunately, it's not as simple as just sliding your passport under the embassy door," he said. "If you don't renounce right away, there is an exit tax on your entire net worth." I don't know, sounds like a little bit of a plug for his law firm. But to be honest, I'm in no way to judge. I mean, everybody has their own priorities and needs and, urgency of how fast they want to do this. Some people might be okay with waiting for like 6 months to over a year, and some just want to get out right away. But I think in the next year or so, we're probably going to be hearing a lot more stories like this, on both sides. People wanting to give up their US citizenship altogether, and those that are deciding to stay and fight. But hopefully those that are watching this video right now that might be dual citizens, at least this gives you an idea what your fellow dual citizens are actually doing. Okay, that's all I got for today's video. If you found any value or agree with anything I said, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international point of view without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you're notified of my future videos. And if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that'll show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.